live. Beautiful. Recording. Excellent. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Shavua Tov Mevorach to everybody. Today, Sunday, the 4th day of Tammuz, the 3rd of July 2022. Today, for a few moments, as Baruch Hashem, we have a couple of dedications. By the family, the couple of dedications. By the family, the Ben Mazal Alav Shalom. Additionally, today's class by Jose Safra here present. His father Obadiah ben Bahie and his uncle Yaakov ben Bahie Alehem Shalom. Additionally, today's class, gracious ben Bahie Alehem Shalom. Additionally, today's class graciously dedicated for the Refuah Shelema of Vanessa Matilde Bat Mabel Diana and Leah Bat Sara among the Holim of Am Israel. Iratzon, that they should have a speedy recovery. Amen. Let me just scan to the list here. Okay, this is on Tuesday. Beautiful. Even though I'm going to be heading out of town, Be'ezat Hashem, the iTorah.com live class will remain with the usual dedications, etc. So do not worry. Now, I'd like to begin right away an interesting debate in the Gemara, Masechet Berachot, between Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Should the person work or should the person learn all day long? Okay, so if you learn all day long, when are you going to find time to work? Obviously not. So the Gemara brings different opinions, and the Gemara writes, one pasuk says, Be'asafta deganecha, betiroshecha, be'isarecha. Go to the field, gather whatever you have, your grains, your vegetables, your olives, your vine, and you're going to have beracha. Another pasuk says, no, lo yamu shefer Torah ze mipicha. Your Torah should never be departed from your mouth. So which one do you do? One pasuk says, learn all day. Other pasuk says, go to work. So, interesting enough, comes Rabbi Ishmael, and interesting enough, the outcome follows the ruling of Rabbi Ishmael, and it says, Anheg bahen minhag derech eres. You gotta do both. In other words, there is a time to learn, there is a time to work, like there is a time to pray. You cannot say, you know what, from now on, we cancel the minyanim. No more minyan. We're going to have an extra Torah class. Is that allowed or no? No. Why not? There is a pasuk. Ait la'asot Hashem heferu toratecha. The moment that it comes to serve God, close the books. There is a time to learn. There is a time to pray. There is a time to work. And there is a time to be with your family. Our mission is not to neglect any of the above. Our mission is, how can I fit all of the above in my day? That's why the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, this is Masechet Berachot, Masechet Shabbat, says, Kabata Alkim La Torah. The question that a person will be asked when he meets the Creator will be, did you set up fixed time to Torah learning? So what do you understand from the question of the Talmud? That learning all day is not the common thing. Learning and working and doing different things throughout the day, it seems to be the norm. And then we have the next opinion, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But you need to understand who the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was. He was the fellow, the great tzaddik, that spent 12 years in the cave learning Torah and eating food once a week and drinking water whenever water was available and cover his body with sand so he will have the clean clothes in honor of Shabbat. Why did he hide in a cave? Because the Romans put a price tag on his head. Correct? He was a student of Rabbi Akiva, connected to the Zohar Kadosh. there was a decree against the Jewish people, the prohibition of Torah learning. And the enemies of the Jewish people understood this concept well, that if you want to detach the person from godliness, block Torah learning. Mitzvot are important. Tefillah is very important. But without Torah learning, you cannot really pray properly. You cannot do mitzvot properly. You do it heke. Yani, you do it just, you go with the flow. The Navi calls this mitzvah, mitzvat anashim melumada. People do mitzvot, okay, often, regretfully, as a robot. You pre-program the person, do this. You're not playing baseball when you do this, okay? You're kissing the tefillin. That's the kavanah you're supposed to have. Comes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and it says, I don't really agree with that. Because if you're going to plow the field when you need to plow, you need to plant, you need to harvest, you need to thresh, you need to fertilize the land. Yani every hour or every day, you will ask, why don't you come to learn? No, today is 4th of July weekend. Okay, why don't you come to learn? No, now it's a Argentinian Independence Day. Why don't you come today? No, that's a Brazilian Tiradentes war. Why don't you come to pray like Venezuela? When I lived in Venezuela, I never saw this before in my life. But often, legal holidays popped out through the calendar. There were legal holidays left and right. And if a legal holiday will be on a Tuesday, they said, I'm leaving the work on Friday. You remember that? Colombia also. Okay, same thing. I'm leaving Friday. I'm going to come Monday to leave again on Tuesday. So I left Friday noon, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then I'm going to come back for 2.5 days. Be'emet, I'm not kidding you. Somebody, a politician, made a study and it says that from 365 days, take out 50 Saturdays, take out 50 Sundays, that's already 100 days off. 100 days off. Then you have to take Friday, because you know, you're mahmir. You leave work Friday, noontime. That's basically the way it was. So then you have another 26 days. So already 126 days are gone, out of the window, between vacation and long weekends, etc. Then you have the mini holidays. Dia de la Bandera, Dia de la Scarapela, the day of the flag, the day of the president, the day of the war, the day of Xmas, the day of the New Year's Eve, and all the holy saints that in South America, they only have the Yortzeit, right? Correct or not? I'm sorry I make you laugh. But at the end, you know what the concluding number was? At least back in the 80s and 90s. I don't know what's happening there today. More holidays? Unbelievable. I didn't know that. Okay? They said barely 150 days of work. Now you wonder, you know, why the country is like that. Okay? Let's continue. So comes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and it says, so if you're going to have to do all these things, okay? Let's put this in a supermarket position, okay? Pesach, you're ready for Pesach. So you need to kasherize the store, buy matzah. Then comes Shavuot, you need dairy. Then comes Rosh Hashanah, Kippur, Sukkot, you need to prepare. So if you're so busy constantly, when you have time, so comes the Gemara and it says, Bizman she'Yisrael osim retzono shel makom. When the Jewish people are acting properly, properly means they are acting in a proper way of godliness. As we heard yesterday from the great Rabbi Meir Eliyahu. What was the message of the Derasha yesterday afternoon? That part of the goals of the person in this world is to emulate God. Act in a godly fashion. That doesn't mean acting in a godly fashion that you have to suddenly divorce yourself from materialism. That's also a recipe for disaster. You're human, so you need to have a balance. A bit of materialistic aspect of life, a bit of spirituality, and then we find a happy medium between them. But he says, but there is something that is imperative. How does a person conduct themselves? And has nothing to do with how beautiful the mitzvot are, the ones that you do, or how much you spend to do a mitzvah. Because a lot of people spend money on mitzvot, but their behavior is not ideal. When I say the behavior, I'm not even talking anything, God forbid, forbidden or illegal. We're talking about in their attitude, in their personality. This is a message that the Torah speaks about it very loud. There is a pasuk in the Berashah that says, "Be'alachta bidrachav." A person must walk in the ways of God, in the footsteps of God. And Rashi says, how can you say that a human can walk in the steps of God? God is the Almighty, the creator of the world, Melech Malchei Melachim, and we are a minuscule creation. So Rashi says, we know that. But you know what? That doesn't mean that you cannot fine-tune your personality. Polish yourself as a person, as a human. And Rashi brings a few examples. Ma'urahom, afatarahom. That God is patient, God is benevolent, God is compassion, God provides for the poor, protects the widows and the orphans, and dresses the naked, and heals the sick. We do in our ways the same way. Being tolerant, being kind, being patient, helping people. That's it. Does it sound difficult? In theory, it does not sound difficult. But you need to know that any time a person wants to change and become a better person, it's not automatic that you say, you know what, today I'm going to become a tzaddik. I wish that it's so easy that you say, you know what, today I'm going to become a tzaddik. But to make you happy, there are 3 statements in the Talmud that reinforce this concept. One statement says, Haval itaher mesayim lo. In English it means, you want to get close to God, you want to improve yourself, we give you a hand. Nice. Haval itame, but God forbid, the person not only does not want to change and to improve, the person wants to do worse even. God forbid. The Gemara says, "Pothin lo faddal." The doors are open. You're a human being. You have freedom of choice. You make a right, you go to the synagogue. You make a left, you go to the beach. Which one do you want to go is up to you. You can turn the steering wheel to us, or you can go down the block. Another example. There is a third statement in the Talmud that says, that combines both of them. בדרך שאדם רוצה ללכת, מוליכין אותו. In the pathways that a person wants to go, the Shamayim guide the person accordingly. In other words, if you want to do the proper thing, you want to do the right thing, that's not a problem. You have minyanim to choose from, you have classes to choose from, you want to come to the kollel and learn, faddal, we are open. Anything you want, it's available for you. But if God forbid the person says no on excuse, etc., okay, nobody is forcing you to do anything. This has to come from the heart and the person. So the Gemara continues bringing different statements of the Bishimon Bar Yochai, and it says as follows, that there were 2 schools. When I mean schools, means 2 groups of people. They decided to try this formula. One was fully dedicated to Torah learning. And the other group said, part-time Torah learning, part-time work. What was the outcome? The Gemara says. So it says, in the early days, let's be honest, life is complicated. I'm sorry to say that. But the truth is, and when I mean to say life is complicated, that there are so many things going around our life that the day comes, the day leaves, and then you look back and you ask yourself, what did you do today? What did you accomplish today? We have a lot of things besides traveling. Traveling it's a different story. But distractions, correct? How many distractions we have? Don't answer. Plenty. Plenty of distractions. In the time of the Talmud, going back 1800 years, what was the style, the lifestyle of the person? And I did not even talk about your monthly budget. Tuition, rent or maintenance, mortgage, insurance, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, IRA, 501 or 401, that's a different fund.
501c.
501c3, that's a non-profit code for the IRS, okay? W2, 1099, whatever you have, it's, I'm throwing you just numbers and I can draw for you your monthly budget. I'm not going to do it because I'm afraid, okay? Back then in the day, insurance didn't exist. Tuition, everybody chipped in. Traveling, it was even dangerous to travel back then. It was traveling back then in the time of the Talmud, it was in a caravan. It wasn't like, we are accustomed today, let me go to Israel here, let me go to the summer to Deal, let me come in the winter to Temporary, let me go in between to New York. Today we are living a different, that's a budget by itself, okay? So the fact that life in our days has so many things going on around us, so if we don't learn Torah and we don't train ourselves, as the Gemara writes, to have a fixed time of Torah learning, how do we survive? And it goes to Gemara and it says, in the olden days, people used to work just a few hours a day. Okay, how much do I need for my daily expenses? Let's say 25 dinarim, let's call it the currency back then. I make 25 dinarim, I'm going to the kollel. That's how it was back then. That's what the Gemara says. Melachtam arai, toratam keva. Working was, I need to put food on my table. I give the money to my wife, like Hillel used to do. Give the family the support that they needed. He kept some money to pay the admission fee to the Bet Midrash. Can you imagine that there was a time in history you wanted to come learn? You needed to have a ticket to let you. That was part of the decrees that they made also against the Jewish people, that they wanted to learn, they needed to pay. So many people say, forget about it. Imagine yourself if I say the following. If you want to come to this class and you like to have breakfast and you want to sit down, you have to pay an admission fee. Without breakfast, $5. With breakfast, $12. And that's a cheap breakfast. Because that, what you see in front of you, cost us more than $7 per person. Yes, sir. What do you think? It's man. It's not balash. It's not balash. But can you imagine if we do such a ruling? How many are going to come? Or I Torah, let's be spiritual. The individuals in I Torah, they have to pay an access fee to watch the Torah live. This is not wrestling pay-per-view. This is not boxing pay-per-view. Okay? This is Torah live. Gurdish. Zero. And he says, the chud that we had. Back then, you wanted to go to the Bet Midrash to learn? Show me your ticket. You got to pay the fee. Don't you remember the famous story of Hillel? That one day he came to the Shamosh, right? And he says, can I come in? No, you don't have your ticket, but I come here every day. Yeah, no ticket, no entry. So what did he do? He went up to the rooftop to listen to the Torah class from Shemaiah and Abtalion. The next morning, they all came to pray and to learn, and they see that the window panel on top, it's completely covered. It was daytime, but it looked very dark. They look. What they see? The body of Hillel that froze. It was very cold that night.
Can he do that?
He didn't. And from that, you know what we learn?
How to pay?
No, you know what we learn from that story? That on the spot, they boiled hot water to warm up his body on Shabbat. That's what you learn from the Mishnah. Why? Pikuach nefesh. Now, obviously, how many of us are going to be like Hillel? Maybe you are a holy man. I don't know, you're Kohen Gadol. Okay? I didn't say you, I said him. Okay? They're going to go the extra mile to come and to go on tap to listen. Okay? He connects to Zoom. He cannot come. What do?
Zoom.
You connect to Zoom.
I was in Zoom.
I know he was in Zoom, but he wanted to come to the class in person to say hello to the rabbi. Chazak Baruch, I really appreciate that.
101.
I need your blessing before I leave, you know. We all need blessings. Anyways, so obviously, Hillel was one. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was one. Rabbi Akiva was one. Moshe Rabbeinu was one. So they were like the heroes of the foundation of Am Israel. At the end, the Gemara concludes and it says that there were many who attempted to do like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and they did not succeed. They wanted to live a Torah Kolel lifestyle. They tried, but they didn't succeed. Many did like Rabbi Ishmael, and they were successful in both. They were able to dedicate time to work, and they were able to dedicate Torah learning. And throughout the world, and it's happening in our synagogue, it's happening in South America, it's a given that people do come to the synagogue 2-3 hours, or in the morning or in the evenings. You have to understand the dynamics in South America are a bit different than in America. For example, Argentina, no one has dinner before 9:30 at night, correct? Very late at night. And the day doesn't start that early like in Brazil. Brazil, the day starts 6 a.m. If you go 6 a.m. on the street, you see the people, the employees walking back and forth. By 6 p.m., the day is over. Argentina, the opposite. Nothing before 9, and stores are open till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. That's the mindset of different things. In Mexico, same thing. Other people stay in the knees till 10, 11 o'clock, or they come at 4 o'clock to learn. Again, in Mexico, it's very common that you have a lot of help. Your wife has a khaddame or two, automatic. And you don't have to be rich and famous to have that. It's very affordable. So when you have all, right, correct? When you have all these things around you, you know, okay, you manage your life a bit different. In America, it's not so common. People have dinner much earlier. If you want to have help at home, it's like a mini mortgage, give or take, right? You agree? That's what it is. And then you have so many expenses and so many things to pay that, you know, you need to maximize the amount of hours. But irrelevant of where you are, okay? Irrelevant where you live, it is not negotiable that a Yehudi must have times to learn Torah. The question is, how much time Torah learning a day is required? How long is it required? So this question has been debated in the past. One opinion says, ma'aser. You have to give a 10% minimum of your net profit of your business. You got to give 10% to God. So how do you get to the 10% to God? It's very simple. You pray, Shaharit Minha Arvit. How long does that take you throughout the day? Shaharit Minha Arvit. Let's be generous. Minha Arvit, half an hour, nice. 35 minutes even. Shaharit depends on the weekday. Let's be generous. Yani an hour and a half, you have connection with God through prayer. That's textbook-based prayer. Then there is another type of prayer, your own personalized, custom-made prayer. In your time, in your language, in your need. You're going to go see a client, you say, Hashem, help me to be successful. You're going to take medicine, you say, Hashem, help me that the medicine brings me refuah shelema. You're going to do an exam, medical exam, say, help me to have good news. But these are prayers that are tailor-made to your particular needs. Nobody needs even to know about this. So if you have an hour and a half of praying, how much net balance do you have from 2 hours and 40 minutes? And that's 2 hours and 40 minutes represents your net ma'aser of the day. Of the 24-hour days, you have 2.40 minutes that you need to give to God. So how much do you have left if you use an hour and a half for praying? How much do you have left? An hour and 10 minutes, correct? So an hour and 10 minutes seems to be the minimum requirement of Torah learning a day. But that's a problem. There is a problem with that. Why? Because the Gemara language is Kevi'ot Eitim la Torah. Kevi'ot Eitim means fixed time to Torah learning. For example, we have a fixed time. We have a date every day. 9:15 till 10 o'clock. That's Kevi'ot Eitim. Or you come to the Kolel, to the Gemara class, 6 to 7 in the evening, or if you go to the Daf Yomi now, instead of coming here, you go to a Torah class, you sit down, you are learning. That's called Kevi'ot Eitim. According to various opinions, the prayer time cannot be considered as learning because it is not learning. Praying is not learning. Praying is a way that a person communicates themselves with HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the many channels what prayer really represents. So according to many opinions, 2 hours of Torah learning is the minimum requirement that needs to be met. An hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, or 45 minutes in the morning, an hour and 15 in the evening. Baruch Hashem, the synagogues does provide these opportunities according to the schedule, but the bottom line, the message of the Gemara says that to live, or to learn, or to live a Kolel lifestyle is not for everyone. And this is the reality. How many members our synagogue has, and how many Kolel members the synagogue has? Only 10. No more. If we want more, I have to import. It's not Brooklyn, the gel factory. It's not Mexico, 22 kolelim, mostly Syrian. Argentina, 28 kolelim, unheard of. I wasn't aware of the flourishing of what's happening all over the world. But again, only people who truly are devoted to Torah learning. And it's a big zechut for the city to have people, Baruch Hashem, learning Torah. And you know, when you live as a kollel or a yeshiva teacher, etc., you need to learn that you are tightening your belt. What's granted for us in the world of business is not guaranteed for them throughout the week or throughout the month or throughout the year. And that's why there is such a zechut to support Torah learning, as we learned the other day, in the relationship between Issachar and Zebulun. I like to bring up one particular message, hidden but found in the parasha of today. I'll give only an introduction. This week's parasha, Parashat Hukat. Parashat Hukat deals with one of the impossible mitzvot to understand. It's called the mitzvah of the para aduma. Famous mitzvah, the mitzvah of the red heifer, the red cow. The Torah gives us guidelines. The pasuk writes, I'll tell you quickly, just to understand the minimum halachic requirement is the concept of being a cow. A cow means an animal that is over 2.5 to 3 to 4 years old. Temimah has to be perfect, has no blemish whatsoever, has to be completely red, and no yoke was placed on top of the neck of this animal. Meaning to say, this animal was never used to work. Para is a 3-year-old animal. Yes. Now, the Rambam writes, let me see if it's here, but I know it's somewhere in my brain. It says clearly that since the creation of the world, right? The creation of the world, there were 9 times in history that this sacrifice of the red heifer was done. What was the purpose of this sacrifice? Basically, to purify someone that became impure with tum'at met. Tum'at met literally means a certain level of impurity. Let's say a person, God forbid, goes to a funeral, or a person carries human remains, a person works in a funeral home, a person works for the Hebra Katisha. All these scenarios brought a certain level of impurity to the body of the person that lasted 7 days. And in these 7 days, there was a certain ceremony with the sprinkling of water mixed with the ashes of the red heifer, and this will purify someone that was impure. That is the basic protocol of the red heifer law. Today, we don't have it. Since the Second Temple, we did not have this ceremony of the Para Aduma done. The final Para Aduma, number 10, Be'ezat Hashem, will be done upon Mashiach's arrival, because we all need to purify ourselves. But the strange thing of this procedure was that the ceremony purified someone that was impure, and the actual priest, the actual Kohen that was doing the procedure of the Para Aduma, he became impure by doing it. And this is what we don't understand. And that's why the title of the Parashah, it's called Hukah. Hukah means a heavenly decree without reasoning. Maimonides writes in the Moreh Nebuchim that a person has the permission to research and to understand the reasons of the mitzvot. It's not a problem. Do the research. If understanding the reason of the mitzvah, it gives you more incentive to do than just doing it in a robotic fashion. Faddal, Shlomo Melech, King Solomon, the wisest of all mankind, that was able to provide several hundreds reasons for every commandment of the Torah. When it came to this mitzvah, he says, I throw in the towel. Rehokahi mimeni. I'm not able to understand how can a mitzvah have a negative side effect. You look at a prescription. You have a medicine. This is treated, this condition. Potential side effects. Heart palpitation, suicide, kidney failures, liver attack, insanity. Are you going to take it? And what do? We take it. Obviously, they have to say this to protect themselves. But can you imagine, usually mitzvot, commandments, have only positive side effects. One exception, this mitzvah. And that's why it's called Zot Hukat Torah. This is the decree of the Torah. And I can expand on this pasuk, but not today. But I'm going to say something, and with this, I have to finish the class. They're going to come pick me up to the house in a few minutes, so I need to be ready. So I like to bring an interesting pasuk. Towards the second aliyah, I believe, the Torah talks about how vessels, kelim, vessels, can also become recipients of impurity. So the verse says, verse 15, and any vessel that is open and doesn't have a cover to seal it well also becomes impure in the case of tum'at ohel. What does it mean, tum'at ohel? God forbid, in a room, there is a dead body. What is the first thing you need to do? Open the windows. And if the body is on the floor, after the remains are removed, throw water. So the impurity, any food open in that room, automatically must be discarded. You cannot use it, get rid of it. Why? Because a room, it's a confined place. And the impurity resides there temporarily. That's why the opening of the window. Let the spirit leave. Okay? So the Torah says, if in a room where there was a dead body, there were vessels that were open, the vessels also absorb that impurity. And depends on the type of vessel that you have, what type of kashering you have. But I like to say something, and with this I'll finish. And try not to hold me up, because I'm looking at the clock, and the clock is looking at me. I still have to go to the office. You know what that means? Okay? Anyways, short answer. I'm going to repeat the pasuk. Bechol keli patuach. And a vessel that is open, that doesn't have a cover, tameh hu, becomes impure. Every pasuk of the Torah can be interpreted in many ways. Even on the pasuk of the Para Aduma, watch tomorrow iTorah.com, and I'm going to dissect for you the meaning of that pasuk. What does it mean, red heifer? What does it mean, perfect? What does it mean, whole? What does it mean, no yoke? All these requirements, they have a spiritual connotation to them. In other words, it's not just the physical requirement. In every one of these words, there is a spiritual requirement parallel to the physical. And you'll hear the class tomorrow live, if not deferred audio file or video file, and you'll get to hear the answer. But I'll tell you what this pasuk says. Bechol keli patuach. If your mouth is open, if your mouth is open, let's read the pasuk together so it will make sense what I'm going to say now. On verse 15, if your mouth is open, asher en samid patil alav, and your mouth doesn't get well covered, sealed, tamehu, you are impure. What does it mean you are impure? Means not in the physical way, but on the spiritual way. If your mouth is open, you have no filters, you have no barriers, you have no fences, you don't install or inject thinking before speaking, probably your mouth becomes a sewer. God forbid. Cloaca in Spanish. What does that mean? A sewer is something filthy. And you don't have to speak foul language to defile your mouth. Anger defiles your mouth. Cursing defiles your mouth. Eating non-kosher, obviously. Lying, deceiving, causes, spiritual downgrade to the mouth of the person. And this is perhaps the message also here. If you keep your mouth open, you're looking for trouble. As we learned last week, Sefer Hasidim, chapter 86, 88. As long as the words stay inside of me, I'm the master of my silence. Once my words leave my body, I become the slave of my words. There is much more to say, but I apologize. JetBlue doesn't wait for me. Unless Maybe you can pull that off, maybe to wait a few minutes, okay? But I don't need police escort to the airport, thank you. But thank you for offering, I know you already. But I'm happy to see everybody. Be'ezat Hashem, you'll see me live through Heifer. If not, you'll see me next week. בעזרת השם, ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל